So when we got into ProShop and everything kind of had a place to put what we needed to record, that was the big reason that we went that direction. Um,
Mhm.
I was very ambitious with it. You guys have a terrific library of videos on how to. So I was just running through material as fast as I could take it in after hours. So um, Anthony was our
Oh, yeah.
support
Nice.
basically on the
Mhm.
onboarding side of it. And there was a couple of times he's like, "I'm impressed at just how fast you're picking this stuff up." But you guys did a really good job. There's just a real good methodical structure behind it. So if you've spent any time in a manufacturing environment, you're realizing there's more ease introduced into your processes the way you guys have this structured than I felt more welcomed by it versus overwhelmed by it, just because there were so many times doing our own processes that I wanted a place to put that information, and you guys
Mm.
basically gave it to me.
Welcome to the Manufacturing Transformed podcast, where we dive deep into the world of manufacturing and uncover the transformational journeys of companies that are powered by ProShop. Get ready to explore the stories behind the machines, the people, and the innovation shaping the future of this industry. Welcome to Manufacturing Transformed. Real shops, real stories.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Manufacturing Transformed. I just got to sit down and have a really fun conversation with Brock Graves from Quick Drive Racing. This is a small family business. His brother and his dad, and they make very high-end, very high horsepower units for drag racing. So, very, very, very niche business. He says their units can handle 5,000, more than 3,000 horsepower is kind of what they're designed for, which is super cool. As a motorhead, I love it. But they recently also decided to go for their AS9100 certification after bringing on ProShop. So, things as they grew, things were just getting, a little bit chaotic. They decided they needed a better system to manage, the organization of the business and their jobs and purchasing and inventory and all of that. They make, obviously complex units with multiple components inside. If you're making a whole, sort of transmission drive unit, after they got ProShop on board and then started, you know, researching or learning about the ability to go for AS9100, they decided they wanted to do that. And they had received feedback from people in the industry that it would take them years and there was so much paperwork and it was such a huge effort. But when they learned about what we could offer with our, flying start package and some of the built-in, templates right into the system, they very decisively decided to move aggressively towards that. And within 3.5 months of making that decision, they got their certification, and they got it just a few months ago. So they're just dabbling to get their feet wet in the aerospace industry. But what I love about this story is that a small family business like this can decide to change the trajectory of what they're doing, to bring in the resources, take the approach, and I really appreciate and respect the approach that Brock discusses about process control, about being organized, the way they think about sort of continuous improvement and always gaining that edge that's so necessary in racing as well. And that's going to serve them very well in the aerospace industry and whatever else they go tackle. But I also shared the story of a much larger customer, that I actually just interviewed yesterday, who had some very similar parallels. A business that was in the racing industry, focused on their own products, basically, and then decided to pivot and move into contract manufacturing wildly successfly. So that's Roush Yates Manufacturing Solutions with now over 115 people. So again, very different scale of business, but I appreciate Brock sharing, what they've done in their business. It's a true honor to be able to support them in their endeavors to grow their business in different ways, and I'm excited for their future. And super grateful they're willing to take the journey with us and let us be a support to them. So let's go have this great conversation with Brock. Brock, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So anything anytime I can talk to someone that has any kind of foundation in motor racing, I am all about it. That's how I kind of found my love for manufacturing was the Formula SAE competition, and I was just a motorhead from the time I was little. So, yeah, let's start by introducing your business, a bit of a snapshot of what you guys look like and do today, and then let's go back and talk about the history of the business.
Okay. I'm one of three owners of Quick Drive. We manufacture a pretty specific drivetrain component for high horsepower drag racing and anything that's encountering 3,000 plus horsepower. We've got them in monster trucks, a couple of
Oh, fun.
boats. So we're not limited strictly to drag racing, but
Uh huh.
basically we allow people that have normally run clutches with racing style transmissions, they can adapt our unit to it and run a torque converter. So it makes them an automatic transmission at that point.
And do you go all the way up to like, top fuel, like 12,000 type horsepower
The top
applications or?
fuel cars, they're limited because they have to run a cannon. So they have to run a clutch style cannon um,
Oh, interesting.
drivetrain in those. Otherwise,
It's new to me.
I would venture to guess it would probably live through those conditions. It's a pretty
Wild.
robust drive unit.
What is a cannon for those that are curious like me that don't know?
So those clutches are a centrifugal uh, style clutch. You've got weighted arms that are applying clutch pressure. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what happens is they run a hydraulic limiter that allows that clutch to engage slowly over the progress of the run instead of
Mm,
relying strictly on the weights and the fulcrums inside of the clutch to initiate the clutch bite. They're
mm,
holding it back, so they're controlling. They want an aggressive amount of slip early on to get the tires moving, get the car moving, and break inertia.
right. Wild. Yeah, I've only been to a couple top fuel races, and it is just mind blowing
It
the
is.
the power in the air that just like the sound waves, the impact to your body. It almost want to make your knees buckle. I mean, it's just truly astounding.
It is.
It's something that everyone should experience with with
Absolutely.
with double with double earplugs, like
Yes.
the ones inside your ears, and then the big muffs on the outside as well. But yeah, holy cow, it's something else. Thank a machinist for sure for making that all possible.
Yep.
Um, all right, and so how did you get involved in that business?
So, my dad was a late model stock car crew chief. He dabbled a little bit in the AIS IndyCar stuff. Um, I've just grown up around racing. So
Mm-hmm.
when my brother and I were younger, we were in the junior drag racing series. So
No
we've kind of
fun.
always been exposed to it. Um, I went to school to do automated manufacturing, and then after that went into engineering school. It was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
a natural progression. I'd probably end up in some sort of motorsports manufacturing at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
we started our company in 2004. Um,
Okay. 22 years ago.
yep,
Yeah.
building oil fracking equipment was kind of where we
Oh,
started at.
interesting.
And then,
Okay. And this is you and your dad and your brother?
yes, yep, three of
Okay.
us.
Okay.
And after some of the transitions politically in the state, oil and gas fell off drastically, so we were looking for other things to do. We'd still kind of stay close to the racing world, but it's a tough industry unless you have a real
Mm-hmm.
specific product line to offer people.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a close contact that had us building some parts for Quick Drive at that point, and the gentleman wanted to retire, so we acquired the company and kind of took it over from there. That was in
Cool.
2013.
Okay. All right. And then yeah, so that's kind of been your specialty for many years is just making those units for all these different applications.
Yep. Yep.
And what did the manufacturing floor look like in terms of equipment?
We started out with a late '90s Takasawa lathe, two-axis turning center, and
Mhm.
a Hosvia 4 vertical
Okay.
mill.
Mhm.
And since then, we've progressed quite a bit from that. So,
So what does the shop look like today in terms of equipment and people and that sort of thing?
it's still basically three of us. We have
Okay.
a UMC 750 that we run all of our five-axis
Nice.
components on. We got into a Washion High-Tech 230 turn mill.
Mm-hmm.
and then we've recently brought in a H plus 300 Mat Sura with 15 pallets. So
Whoa, that's a big that's a big upgrade. That is a nice machine.
yeah,
How's that thing been?
it it's a new to us machine. We
Okay.
purchased it used, and
Yeah.
it's had its learning curves for sure.
Okay. All right.
It's one of the late 2000 machines, like a 2009. So it's actually a Siemens controlled machine. So coming
Okay.
from Osworld and Fanuc and
Mm-hmm.
that sort of programming, we're learning as we go here with the Siemens control.
Okay. Well, once you get all the kinks worked out, I know it'll be a super solid machine and
It will.
kind of elevate your manufacturing to the next level. Very cool. And and then you guys had decided to diversify out of doing exclusively the racing stuff, and maybe talk about how you got introduced to ProShop and how that relationship developed.
So initially, we were looking at ways to kind of keep track of our processes. We had spreadsheets and stuff. I was doing a lot of note taking inside of my cam packages. There was just a lot of disconnects with overall process.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd actually encountered some of the stuff you were putting out on LinkedIn at the time when I got interested into ProShop and or introduced into ProShop and found it interesting. It was a very methodical organization behind basically what we needed to do with it. And through the process of obtaining ProShop or getting on board with you guys, I started really researching the AS9100 world and some of
Mm-hmm.
the aerospace opportunities out there. In Colorado, that's such a booming economy right now with aerospace that it was kind of an inevitable next step for us to take.
Yeah, yeah. So your interest in going for AS 100 came after you got ProShop. You
Correct.
originally got it just to organize your normal racing work.
Yep.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, cool, cool. Um, and then, yeah, as you were saying to me before we hit record, you pretty aggressively started pursuing AS 9100. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about just that process, working with our team, um, what that was like, and you know, going and passing your audit.
So we talked to a handful of colleagues in our industry or people that own companies adjacent to the racing world slash manufacturing for aerospace.
Hmm.
Um, and just talking to them about what their process was like to get through some sort of a large audit like that.
Hmm.
A lot of those guys were telling us, it's years, it's a lot of paperwork. And about that time, we had already signed on to ProShop. We were already working with the ProShop team and had some conversations with you guys about how your process differs and some of the stuff that we would have to be writing if we didn't have ProShop
Hmm.
to document our processes and keep our arms around all of that stuff. It just was quickly apparent how seamless it would be using the ProShop platform to
Hmm.
access that world. So yeah, we made some pretty quick decisions about it after we got fully implemented in ProShop, and we
Hmm.
really pushed hard. I think we were probably 3.5 months working with just Teasdale with you guys, and
Hmm.
transitioned completely over into aerospace at that point. We went through our audit late February and had our certificate mid March. So it was a pretty quick process after we decided to go that direction.
That's awesome. So you clearly did the flying start package or the QAP package, whatever it's called. So all the content was already in that system.
Yes.
Um, and then what was it like? How much of it did you kind of tweak or customize to the way you wanted to do it versus just kind of taking it out of the box and just really following the structured
The
workflows that designed in ProShop?
the customization part of it was pretty minimal.
Okay.
Because that transition was very new to us, we didn't almost know all of the pieces that we had to have in place. So, with the template structure that you guys provided, that was huge. We kind of approached it with we didn't know what we didn't know,
Hmm.
and just looking at how the organization package and the templates were put together, we were real easily. I mean, we were quickly able to make that transition and on board with AS 9100.
Okay. So for those that maybe aren't as familiar, maybe just describe a little bit about what it was like to to work with Jess. Obviously, we put all this content into your system, and it's the things that the auditor would look for in addition to the objective evidence showing that you're actually doing work, have some jobs, under your belt showing you maintaining the traceability or doing all the things you say you do. Maybe just share a little bit about how that, how often you met, how that process went, how Jess was able to kind of teach you, about the standard and how ProShop approaches it.
I mean, Jess was great because his background was in the quality side of things to begin with. So he
Hmm.
brought a lot of real world application. This is going to be important in this instance because, and not knowing what that aerospace environment really looked like, having some of that insight was super helpful. And then as far as showing us how to connect the dots between this incredibly robust ERP system that we just found ourselves in the middle of, and showing exactly how we would handle and manipulate all of the items going on inside of that system to output, COCs or FAI reports, everything that kind of goes into the aerospace side of it at that point is
Hmm.
it's already being built in the background of ProShop. So it's pretty seamless at that point.
Okay. And then were you meeting with him at the same time you were still wrapping up your actual training with your normal ProShop trainer? Or did
Um,
they
we
happen after the fact?
It was after we had
Okay.
about a month, and then we got paired up with Jess, and then jumped right
Okay.
into the QA part of it.
Okay. And then for the actual just regular onboarding, just share a little bit about what that was like. Because obviously you're going from, basically your own product where you weren't even necessarily dealing with, build to print requirements from a third party. That's a big shift for a company to make.
It really was. Some of the benefit behind it was, like I said, when we were kind of running our own organizational method, trying to kind of hide stuff in our CAM package or in some of the blueprints that we'd drawn internally and everything, that there was a massive breakdown on just keeping your arms around the processes. So when we got into ProShop and everything kind of had a place to put what we needed to record, that was the big reason that we went that direction. Um,
Mhm.
I was very ambitious with it. You guys have a terrific library of videos on how to. So I was just running through material as fast as I could take it in, after hours. So um, Anthony was our
Oh, yeah.
support
Nice.
basically on the
Hmm.
onboarding side of it. And there was a couple of times he's like, "I'm impressed at just how fast you're picking this stuff up." But you guys did a really good job. There's just a real good methodical structure behind it. So if you've spent any time in a manufacturing environment, you're realizing there's more ease introduced into your processes the way you guys have this structured than I felt more welcomed by it versus overwhelmed by it, just because there were so many times doing our own processes that I wanted a place to put that information, and you guys
Mm,
basically gave it to
okay.
me.
And once you had spots for those things, like what was the outcome? Was like setups easier? People were making fewer mistakes, or just what happened there?
There was a couple of things that it did for us. The ability to sit down and start a job on paper and kind of work through an entire process plan prior to making any chips. We do a lot of
Hmm.
stuff in SolidWorks where we would do model assemblies and we would kind of run it through some testing before we actually produce the part. But for sitting down and creating a process to manufacture it was something that the software gave us a huge advantage of, just because it broke it down so well to say, okay, we're gonna bring in the print and just go through the entire process step by step before you even need to really put it on the machine. I think it made kind of the new part implementation of of our shop and our process
Hmm.
was streamlined due to the fact the organization was there. It kind of gave
Nice.
us things to look for, like, okay, just follow the steps of ProShop, and it's gonna kind of put that into your hands so you can quickly get out on the floor and make it happen. Um, I pretty much handle most of the manufacturing, planning and the programming inside that side of the business is one of the hats that I wear. So,
Hmm.
um, the chaos happens in the shop like anybody gets, and it's nice because ProShop kind of has the little reminder. Did you forget to do that? Did you remember to do that? Did you make that happen before you
Hmm.
rush out there and start setting up a machine? That part I found to be extremely useful. So,
Hmm.
and we've had a couple of jobs. We've in the short length of time that we've been on ProShop, we have had a couple of repeat jobs come through already, and the setup time the second time through has just been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. So maybe for a moment, you kind of just alluded to this, but there are folks out there that need to be reminded time and time again that investing a little bit more time on the front end to do a more thoughtful, thorough plan will more than make up for the time you invested on the back end in the terms of faster setup times or less chaos or things you don't forget or miss. Because there's still a lot of shops out there. They're like, I got this job. I just got to throw it out to the shop floor immediately. Like, here's the drawing. Good luck, and not really doing much, manufacturing planning of all at all, or just very minimal. And sometimes that advice, maybe certainly coming from me or from us, is harder to believe maybe than someone that's in the trenches like yourself that actually has seen the benefits of being a little bit more thorough on the front end.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that you're basically saying you're reinforcing what I've said as far as um, you have an idea from concept to in manufacturing, but it's in the evolution process the way we used to handle it. So we
Hmm.
would just jump on the floor, start kind of working through the process. We'd go back and tweak programs, come back to the machine, reload it, change tooling. There was certain times when you're in the development process, you're not thinking about the super efficient side of it to make it the best way you can right out of the gate. So
Hmm.
with that process in ProShop saying, okay, have you checked all of these feeds and speeds? Have you gone through and made sure that you're not bottoming taps? I mean, it's got little reminders in that planning process that you're
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, that's a great point. I should probably look at that and make sure that that's where I want it to be. So it caused me to kind of pause, take another second at a second look at a program or the way I wanted to approach it. It
Hmm.
just really gave me an opportunity to hit the floor with a sound plan right out of the gate.
Hmm. Yeah, what you just said there is clearly you're using our pre-processing checklist,
Yep.
and candidly, that's not a feature that everyone gravitates to right off the bat. Did When you saw that feature, did you know you wanted to use it right away, or did that something you discovered after a few months or something?
Um, it was shown to me. Anthony would kind of walk me through the parts of it, and it was more of introducing me to the documentation needs that we would be encountering with AS 9100.
Hmm.
Um, so initially, it was overwhelming. I wasn't
Hmm.
like, "Oh, this is gonna be a huge benefit." It was more of a, "I gotta fill this thing out again. I gotta do this." After I used it a couple of times, I'm like, "No, this makes a lot of sense. You should be doing this on every job you do."
Hmm. That's Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Um, yeah, and the fact that your first reaction is like, oh my gosh, another thing to fill out, another box to check. But yeah, it is the case that it only takes a few seconds to check it, and the work that you actually are doing is important work, right? And it will help uh, solve a problem, potentially a scrapped part, a broken tap, something that could have happened otherwise that is much less likely to happen because you just gave it a few seconds thought, went and actually double checked the thing, and then checked the box that you had done that. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, you know, I sometimes sort of parallel, brain surgery and precision machining. Uh, you know, Brain surgeons or surgeons of any kind, have an immensely complex job. They're highly trained individuals, and the reason I make this parallel is there was a book that was written many years ago by a medical researcher and doctor named Atul Gawande, and it's called the Checklist Manifesto. And it's a fascinating study because prior to him writing this book and the research they did behind it, there wasn't really a standardized sort of checklist process for surgery. And he had seen how pilots use checklists very extensively, right? There's a pre-flight checklist for every time you're going to fly. And he thought, well, what if we did that with surgery? And it turned out, I'm sure I'll mess up the statistics, but something like once they implemented, checklists into some of these hospitals, the chance of someone dying on the surgery table because of a mistake or an oversight dropped by like 70%.
Wow.
A crazy number, like an incredible number, just by using a checklist. And, and this is by someone that's all they do is they do surgeries all day long, and they're highly paid and they're highly, trained. Um, and there are so many minute steps and little gotchas and things that can go wrong with machining that years ago, back when we were running our shop and we read this book and we're like, maybe we should introduce some checklist features into the system we're building for ourselves. And we did, and it just changed the game, right? It prevents fires from happening because you forgot to check the rev was right on the drawing or the model or the taps, or your who knows what, like all the different little things that can go wrong. So I appreciate you sharing both your initial skepticism and then your belief that this is actually going to help me do my job better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing that's been incredibly useful to us as well, we do try to stock a lot of standardized tooling, and
Hmm.
we've even got some inventory of material that we have a
Hmm.
lot of repeat jobs with. Um, the tool itself, ProShop, actually does a phenomenal job at keeping its arms around your inventory and letting you know, hey, you got this job coming up that you're scheduling, but you may or may not have adequate a number of tools or
Mm.
even the inventory you need in the material side of things to perform that job. So even going through the purchasing side of the software has been phenomenally useful for us.
So does that mean you're using the tooling module and applying the tools to your jobs and your
I am trying to do that,
okay,
because we are still so new to it. There's a lot of tools in the shop to get our
the
arms around and
catalog?
get into the system. So
Yeah,
we're trickle feeding it, but a lot of the repeat stuff that's come up, we've already run it through because we've built out the job plan on it. So it is
nice.
telling us, yeah, we're missing an insert, we're missing a drill. Go chase that down before you start that job.
Oh, God, it's music to my ears. I love it. That's awesome. Great. Well, good for you for tackling that part of it so early. Um, so tell us a little bit about the actual leading up to the audit itself. What was the feedback from the auditor? How did the audit go? That sort of thing.
The audit went really well. I think some of the stuff that was of concern to the auditor was just the straight fact that we didn't have a lot of jobs already run through the system just because we've been on the system so little of a
Hmm.
time frame.
Sure.
Um, but everything that he saw, everything that was checked out on it, he was impressed by it. So, and he had seen a number of ProShop companies or companies that were utilizing ProShop.
Okay. Yep.
So it wasn't a new exposure to him to see a ProShop structure.
Okay.
So yeah, it went. I think it went as
Great.
well as it could have gone for as short of a period of time as we've been operating the system, and then just really being exposed to AS 9100 standards.
Hmm. Now, were you already doing besides your own, products? Were you doing any kind of job shop work prior as well, or was it 100% your own
It
products?
was very minimal.
Okay.
Most of everything that we do is for our product line for our catalog of parts. So the job
Okay.
shop world wasn't really even something. I think early on when we started the company, obviously doing some of the oil fracking stuff that we were involved in,
Hmm.
that was more of a job shop structure. Um,
Hmm.
but it was still kind of a, we've got this part, this catalog number. We built so many of them, we'd stock a few of them, and then
Right.
as they would need more, we'd just replenish our stock on that side of it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, really a whole new world for you guys.
Yes.
Um, Well, I just did maybe to give you some inspiration. I just did a podcast yesterday. We recorded it with Roush Yates Manufacturing Solutions,
Okay.
one of our bigger clients. But when they took on ProShop, they were pretty new into the contract manufacturing world, right? They had made all the NASCAR engine parts for Ford for, for many, many years. And that was like 90+% of their work was those engine parts. Um, but when they changed the rules in NASCAR to not allow a practice engine and a qualifying engine and a different race engine, they used to go through engines like like
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
Um, when they changed that, they found themselves with just massive amounts of open spindle time because they
Mhm.
just didn't need, I don't know, maybe their volume cut down by 2/3 or 3/4
Wow.
or something like that, So, anyway, so they jumped into the contract manufacturing world, but in the 8 years since, the NASCAR work is now about 10% of their business, and the contract work is 90% of their business. So it flip flopped entirely. So,
Oh yeah.
the model of we make all our own products, and now we're going to start jumping into the contract world when done well, and push for sales, and be professional. Like they've clearly, it's a bigger business with resources,
Mhm.
but to see, and I didn't realize they had shifted their percentages that much.
That's
Um,
drastic.
yeah, yeah. So it is totally possible, and you take the right approach, and you're going to have wild success with it. So, um, now you mentioned to me before we hit record that you did so you got your cert only like a month and a half ago,
Mhm.
something like that, and then you went and did a conference of some kind. So tell us, yeah, a little bit about sort of starting to get your feet wet in this new kind of aerospace world.
Yeah, we went down and attended the space symposium in Colorado Springs.
Hmm.
The recent one that just happened. Um, it wasn't the first trade show we've done. We've done the PRI show with the racing world, and
Of
SEMA
course.
show is a big one that
Hmm.
everybody goes to. So it wasn't a new experience as far as trade shows are concerned, but uh, the content of the trade show obviously night and day from what we're used to being involved with. So it was just a good opportunity to get out, meet some of the people in the industry in the space. Um, and yeah, we made some great contacts through it, and hopefully they'll mature into good business relationships.
Did you just walk the show, or did you actually exhibit?
No, we just walked the show. We just went
Okay.
down and checked it out. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Um, are those contacts you're starting to cultivate? Are those other bigger shops, or those OEMs that actually have the work to give out?
It's actually both. Um, we
Okay.
made some of the primes are a little bit more challenging to get into, to get
For sure.
to get stuff working
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
So we've interacted with Boeing and Raytheon and Lockheed and some of the bigger names in the space. And then we did have an opportunity. We kind of went through one of the adjacent halls that they had set up for more of the manufacturer
Hmm.
type business offerings, and made some good contacts with those people as well. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see how that develops over the next few months.
Yeah. I don't know if any of them are ProShop users, but we have, a large number in the greater Denver area. So I'd be more than happy to make intros for you if
Oh,
you,
that'd be
if you want to
terrific.
meet some folks. And I know a lot of them are very busy and need to offload. So
That would be
that could be a good arrangement.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, and with your equipment, especially that new Metsura, again, once you get your bugs worked out, being able to fixture up something and, with practically zero setup time, run whatever size lot you feel like,
Right.
as often as they need is such a game changer for being able to offer quick lead times, flexible pricing on relatively small quantities
Hmm.
because you're not spending hours and hours setting something up every time. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's a good formula. I like it. Um, if you, um, I guess well, hmm, not sure the best way to frame this question. It's a little different with your background, but one of the questions I often ask are, if you could go back and kind of talk to yourself years ago about getting a system, like ProShop, would you have done it earlier? Did you feel like it was the right time in the growth of your business, or did you kind of hang on too long to those old methods that maybe didn't serve you as well as you realized you thought they might have been at the time?
I definitely think we would not have had any pushback if we'd have started sooner.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of the organizational processes that we're implementing now, post ProShop, have been strictly influenced by the way the ProShop system is laid out. So just
Mhm.
knowing how much ease that's put on some of the jobs that we've had already come through with it, absolutely would encourage my past self or my younger self to have
Mhm.
looked at ProShop much sooner than I did.
And what, other than being exposed to it on LinkedIn, like, did you, I guess there's kind of this whole thing, you don't know what you don't know. But was there any just reluctance? Is it, whether it be just the investment side or just like, we don't, we're a small 3-person company. We just don't need a system. We're fine how it is. Yeah. Anything kind of around that line of thinking?
I think all of that kind of comes into play, or it affected some part of our decision process in it. And we build our own products, so what use do we have for it? We're a small shop. We don't need to orchestrate this giant staff of people that are doing multiple things.
Mhm.
All of that was pretty well played out, and it really just came back to the organizational structure that it would kind of put us into specific lanes to make the shop work way more efficiently than what we were doing with it. So
Mhm, mhm. How many different part numbers do you make as a and you're selling full assemblies, so I'm sure there's lots of things inside, so it's not just like a single billet part number or something like that. Yeah, how many different jobs per year and how many different part numbers are you dealing with on a normal basis?
I think we're probably north of 50 different unique part numbers that we manufacture. And then with the COTS, I mean, we probably have several hundred part numbers with fasteners, O-rings, any of the stuff that we're buying to build through the assembly with.
Mm, mhm,
So, yeah, just to even get your arms around the inventory side of it is huge.
right. How many layers deep do your bill of materials go?
Oof, deep. Probably, uh, because we'll build sub-assemblies, we'll sell repairable components for the drive unit itself. Like, not
Mm,
everything that
mhm.
goes out the door is the final assembled component.
Of course, that
So
makes
we have
sense.
several kit option variants that we have to account for. So yeah, there's
Okay.
it's pretty thick.
And do you also, this gets into a realm of ProShop that very few companies need to deal with, but is your pricing structure fairly fixed, or do you have like distributor pricing and retail pricing or
That was
anything
some
like
of the
that?
stuff we struggled with kind of on the side of implementing ProShop, is because we're more of a retail facing company.
Mhm.
So we try to run more fixed pricing. We do have distributor relationships that we offer discount work through.
Okay.
But making all of that stuff work and function like it was supposed to within ProShop, we that was one of the things we lean more into a hybrid accounting process to deal with assemblies on the invoice side of things
Mhm.
versus
Mm,
just
mhm.
strictly running it all through ProShop.
Okay. And were you exposed to the features and functions that actually allow you to set different price breaks for different types of distributors or levels in the
We
customer
were,
PO module and that sort of thing?
yeah, with the fair market value, and then you can actually have like a retail level, uh, a distributor or a wholesale level. We did get through all of that. Um,
Okay.
some of the stuff that I think became a challenge for me was everything that we had. I mean, we were a QuickBooks company basically, was how we were managing all of our
Mhm.
accounting side of it.
Sure.
So when we imported in all of our inventory models, there wasn't a place to drag price over. So now we're finding ourselves going back through and trying to adjust and set up the fair market value side of it so that it functions that way inside of ProShop.
Mm. So you had places to put costs, just not prices, as
Correct.
the default import for inventory.
Yep.
So yeah, you'd have to re-import into those parts your different pricing structures, retail or wholesale or distributor or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be like a double. like do one level and then add, do it, whatever they call it. Update records with the new fields. And did you do a bunch of, did you use the CSV tool to do a bunch
Absolutely.
of that importing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, I guess that is because the inventory tables have the 4 different buckets for cost, right? And I don't know how detailed you had your costing in QuickBooks. Did you have breakout for material cost and labor cost and overhead cost and that sort of thing?
It wasn't broke out that precisely. We basically just
Okay,
had a cost to put it on the shelf, and that
got
was
it.
a number that we generated from material cost, tooling cost, hours on the
Mhm,
machine.
got it. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, every business is unique, and I mean, we never even like at our shop, Pro CNC, we didn't sell retail stuff until I guess years later we did with the saxophone mouthpiece business that we absorbed. But so that was interesting to learn. But previously to that, we had, taken on our very first customer who was a machining, one of our biggest machine shop customers. But they designed their own products and they sold it at multiple different levels of distribution. And so we had to build all those features for them because, previously we were just a job shop. We didn't have distributor pricing.
Right.
So the concept was even totally foreign to us. So I guess we can thank them in that situation and having to build those features, that then you got to take advantage of. But, not that many shops need that.
Right.
So I'm glad it at least was somewhat useful to you, even if it wasn't the 100% solution. Um, so do you have an e-commerce store and that sort of thing?
We don't. We do most of our stuff is phone call, phone orders,
Okay.
yeah, mail. Everything gets mailed out. I mean,
Got it.
we've got a pretty expansive marketplace. We're any continent that has a drag strip, we basically have product line on it. So we've got customers in Australia, the UK, the Middle East, South Africa, Japan. We've got drive units all over the world.
That is awesome. How do you know how many you've made over all the years? Is that even a number you
Since
keep track of?
since we took over ownership in 2013, I want to say it's probably over 600 units we've personally built.
Okay.
And I've
All
got
right.
I've got serial records from probably the mid 90s. There's over 1,000 of them in circulation to some form or fashion, depending on the generation that they are.
Right. And sounds like since you do repair and rebuild type stuff, you've probably serviced those units many
We have.
times with replacement parts.
Yep.
That's cool. It's good to have a product that needs service that you can make those parts and continue to have that sort of recurring revenue from just use.
Yeah, and the way that that product's built, we've engineered so much resilience into it that the fail points on it, the parts that we're having to repair aren't
Hmm.
really that extensive. Most of the rework that we get is if we've come up with a new solution or in racing, everything's constantly evolving.
Hmm.
So part of our model is how do we adapt it to the old, the early generation product line and then
Got it.
still make it work in some of the newest stuff that we've developed. So a lot of that, extra parts that we're selling and everything are more or less to update people's older units.
That's cool. That's really cool. Do you guys still do racing yourself, or how do you stay connected to what the latest industry, people need?
We have a couple of we consider them house cars that are just real good relationships that we've developed with people. So we'll do
Hmm.
testing through that. We
Hmm.
get out, we go to the races, we get to hang out in the pits with some of these teams, and we're still heavily involved in it, even though we're not fielding cars ourselves.
Hmm. Do you ever get up to any races in Washington?
We used to. I think we used to run. There was a West Coast Pro Mod series that we ran. It was before Quick Drive, and we ran
Okay.
Seattle up there. But it's been
Right.
quite a while since we've been up that way.
All right. All right. Yeah, that's where I've been to a couple of drag races and brought my boys down and just had a blast. So
Oh yeah.
So Brock, running a business for this many years has got to have been quite a journey, quite an experience. And especially going from your own product line to, now jumping into the AS world. What are some of the most kind of interesting or memorable experiences you've had over these years?
Um, I, it's it's forced me to get good at wearing many hats. That's if there's one thing I could say about it. When I started, it was more of we're going to go to school, we're going to learn how to do machining, and we're going to build stuff. And that's a fraction of what I do on a day to day basis. So um, you learn quickly how much additional uh, resources and education that you need outside of just the skill side of it when
Hmm.
you're running and operating your own business.
Well, that's the classic E Myth scenario that this book that I've been recommending for years now. That it's a lot more than just the technical aspect of doing a business. There's a lot of just business side that
Yep,
you generally are not trained in, and certainly as a technical expert in something like machining, doesn't give you the credentials to be a good business owner just right off the bat. So it's a good reinforcement that is something that's worth pursuing, studying, getting good at, and taking seriously beyond just the technical side of machining.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, what would you say, just surviving 20 something plus years is quite an achievement. Most businesses don't last that long. What are some of the best moves and decisions you guys have made to allow you to endure this way?
I think the nature of the industry that we're involved in has kind of forced that skill set onto us just because uh, in auto racing, you're not settling. You never just say we've built it well enough. It's complete. It's finished.
Hmm.
We've kind of just always taken an approach that there's always room to make it better. So with that, uh, being comfortable in the change aspect, that's really helped get us through these significant economic up and downs that we've experienced over 2 decades and all of that
Hmm.
sort of stuff.
Yeah, that resonates for sure. Yeah, it's so competitive. You're constantly looking for that next edge, that next improvement, and that has direct applicability to just business in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how do you stay nimble? How do you take a hit and reinvent something and come back and yeah, that's a good reminder of that. Well, Brock, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and what you guys do. I trust you're going to have massive success in the aerospace industry and whatever industries you tackle next. Like you saying that continuous drive for always getting better, always keeping that edge will serve you well because the aerospace industry is competitive. I mean, contract machining is. There's just no two ways about it. But having that approach that you're taking, having that process driven approach, I know will serve you well as well. So yeah, appreciate your trust in us and coming on and sharing your journey today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to learn more, connect with you, talk or anything at all, where would you direct them?
Uh, Social media, look up Quick Drive Racing. That's probably the fastest, easiest way to find what it is that we do. We
Hmm.
highlight a lot of our customer successes through that. And if you've never seen what 5,000 horsepower looks like in action, it's a great place to get that exposure. I'm on LinkedIn, and then our website, quickdriveracing.com.
Okay. And are you going to be coming out with like a quick drive aerospace or any other rebranding as you move into this or keep it?
We're in discussions with that right now.
Okay.
We don't want to alienate any of the customers that we have established for the racing world, but
Of course.
we want to be forward facing our aerospace clients
Yeah.
with the same.
Well, maybe a DBA or something. Who knows? But, well, very cool. Well, thanks again for coming on the show and sharing and absolute best of luck to you going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rock.